I think Netflix has saved sport.
So I've watched a bit of the Olympics. What were you going to say about the Olympics?
Remember, you used to have you watch the one main channel on 7 or 9 or 10, and you got what you got.
Oh, you're going to be leaving me behind once you get into the detail of viewing.
Well, all the time complex. Now you go to the 9 app on TV and you just choose whatever you want to watch. I can watch. Like the daughter wants to watch the gymnastics. My son wants to watch the diving and swimming. And we want to watch athletics. We can just choose. And before I came out here, I watched the 100 meters.
Yeah.
Obviously, because it got ruined because of the push notifications on the app. But
yeah.
I want to see Noah Lyles win the 100. And I went bang. We watched it, and it was done. Instead of having to we would have missed it. It was overnight.
Definitely,
and you don't get a chance to watch it again.
Definitely, the viewing technology has taken huge leaps forward. And given that's what pays for the whole Olympics, I think that's
does it? Because now I'm not watching ads because I'm just flicking between the different app channels. So I'm not getting exposed to any ads at all. So I'm not sure how this helps the TV stations.
Well, this goes to your point from last week, I guess. It's actually a good point that you just raised, which is there's not going to be a drop-off in viewers. There's going to be an increase in viewers.
Yeah.
And there's not going to be a drop-off in the desire for broadcasters or streamers to have the Olympics. There's just going to be a drop in how they might be able to monetize it. Exactly. But it might be that this is going to head towards streaming, and so the monetization is on the subscription side of things.
I think that's where it has to come. And yeah. I'd happily pay $100 for the Olympics or whatever it is. But have you been watching Sprint on Netflix?
No, what's that?
So we've talked about how
this is a show, right?
It's a show.
I've told you about me and shows.
We talked about multiple times on the show how athletes now are eminently sort of mechanic, forgettable compared to even the 70s, 80s, the McEnroe era. Call it that. McEnroe was called the high water mark. But now there's obviously amazing athletes, but you just don't really understand them. But because of I call it Drive to Survive, but now there's been a bunch of them, obviously.
And there was one on Prime with the Australian cricket team. I forgot the name.
That was on
of
Amazon. It. Yeah, exactly. There's been the footy one that my mate Luke did. There's been a bunch of them that have been on there. And there's one called Sprint, which is basically tracking the 100, 200 metre runners in 22, 23 into the world champs in Hungary. So I didn't know, obviously, everybody knew Usain Bolt, and then he retired in 2016 was his last Olympics, from memory.
And then you don't know anyone after that, right?
Nobody knows anyway. And I didn't know Jacobs won the 2020 Olympic or 21 Olympics. And I watched this 6th episode. My wife actually found it, and we watched it. And now know all the sprinters. And the beauty is because they speak to them at great length, you actually understand their personalities now. So a bit like the whole Drive to Survive effect. So now I know who Noah Lyles is. I know who Sharika Jackson is. I know who Sha'Carri Richardson is. I know all these people. Now I'm watching them actually. And you see like Noah jumping on. He's a great showman as well. And you're willing him to win because So I'm going to put it to you. I think Netflix has saved sport and saved sports people. I think I'm much more interested in save Formula One.
Well, when you say, we can definitely agree on this. The impact of Netflix in turning all sports into narrative-driven entertainment, which is what people love, right? 100%. The sport is just the dramatic, peak of the crescendo of the drama of the person. Definitely F1 has been completely reinvigorated with a new generation and female viewers.
And the golf one, have you watched the golf? Or you haven't?
I haven't, but I know that golf one, definitely. I wouldn't say it's saved them because I think they would still exist and people they'd still have
transformed them.
Yes, definitely it's transformed them. I totally agree. Formula One would not be the same. Definitely. And obviously Formula One I got a bit of insight too because Catapult is the big provider to F1.
Yeah.
And
how many do you go to a year?
How many F1s do I go to? Yeah. I go to the Melbourne one sometimes.
Are you in the pits?
I can go into the pits and race control. Exactly.
Oh wow, that's pretty cool.
It's pretty cool, exactly.
Yeah.
And so I definitely think this has reinvigorated that sport. I'll tell you two things about.
Do you do golf as well? Does Catapult do golf?
There were some golfers that used our technology. We don't target it because individual sports,
not enough money.
It's not very lucrative. Yeah. But there are golfers that have used our stuff over the years. And Andy Murray was the most well-known tennis player that used our stuff. Yeah.
You still play it, which is incredible.
Yeah, incredible.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you two things about the Olympics you'll find interesting very quickly. One, have you noticed that every country shows the medal count in a different way? The score. So Australia, we go for golds. We rank it based on...
officially it's gold.
We rank it based on how many golds, right?
Yeah, it's gold then total.
Okay.
That's how you rank it.
And so Richie Torres, you know who he is? Like the congressman from the Bronx.
No, I don't know.
Yeah, he's great, okay. Richie Torres. You should look him up. So he posts the American way of doing it. Total medals, they're on top, right? And so I'm sure in China they do it by gold medals because they've won a ton of gold. I think they might have won the most gold medals.
It's been unusual that the US have won a lot of medals and not many gold. They keep getting pipped.
Yes.
It usually happens to Australia.
Yeah, but it turns out, and so my son sent me this thing, which was all of the different ways that different organisations rank. And
Those bronzes?
Well, he's like a maths nerd, and so he loves the idea like you could weight the different medals in different ways. Anyway, there are about 7 or 8 different ways that people have come up with of doing this. The most common way, if you're going to do it with medals, so the total count is not necessarily the most common way.
Total golds.
But if you're going to do it with another way, yes, total gold's very common.
Yeah.
But another way, the most common way is like 4 points for gold, 2 points for silver, 1 point for bronze. That makes sense. Okay. Each one doubles and a gold's worth 4 times a bronze.
Yeah.
That's quite a good system. But anyway, he showed me this graph, which I'm not going to. We actually wouldn't bore you, but I don't have it here. But it's showing like 2 axes, what's a silver worth compared to a bronze and what's a gold worth compared to a silver. And it shows on the axes all of the different multiples that it could be as the continuum of the axes and which countries would be coming first. Yeah. And like the US comes first only in a small number of scenarios, one of which is total medals.
They'll come back harder in the second week because obviously they historically were very good at swimming. They've obviously lost a bit of their edge in swimming. No Michael Phelps, no Mark Spitz. So it's such an. And I've always had an issue with the number of medals you win because there's such a thing like Mark Phelps, the most successful Olympian of all time because he's won so many medals and Spitz before him. But swimmers can just win so many more medals because you can go in at 100, 200, 4x1, 4x2, a 400 individual medal. You can easily win 6. You can't win 6 or 7. Basketballers can win 1. Hockey players can win 1. Skateboarders can win 1.
But there are a lot of Americans. There's not many Australians and there are a lot of Americans. Like it's pretty remarkable that Australia has had this resurgence. I know people said the rowing has been a bit of a disaster, for example.
After a great 30 years.
But Australia is like doing astonishingly well for its population size.
I think clearly we had that great
era.
And we dropped off in London and came back. Actually, I think Tokyo was our record haul for memory.
Right.
But nobody watched it because
Do you think that a financial incentive would increase the likelihood of an athlete winning a medal? So if you paid them money to win a gold, a silver, or a bronze, do you think that would... And by the way, I know this is not a trick question because the answer is not contained like inside my mind. I'm not sure anyone knows, but I am leading to something interesting. But do you think that...
Well, there has been... Remember they used to give a golden Holden to the Australians when they won? That was like effectively a monetary thing. Yeah. And obviously you get endorsement. The more you win, the more endorsements you get. That depends on the sport and who you are and all that kind of stuff. I don't think it makes that much of a difference.
Would you do it if you were in charge of...
You see the person in Korea who... If he won a medal, he would be exempt from military service, which is even a more extreme version.
It's basically, although you get to kind of keep your life if you win a medal.
There you go.
That's a strong incentive. Someone once said to me, if you want to know the best businesses, it is keeping you alive and keeping you out of jail. They're the 2 easiest products to sell. It's probably true.
Depends how much competition. Like that's being a lawyer and a doctor. Like yes and no.
Yeah. And so I'm not sure if I would implement. Like, do you think
some countries do?
Do you think Australians should get paid a bonus for winning medals, Australian athletes? Because a lot of them are struggling to survive, right?
I'd probably rather them get some sort of living wage, which is what Gina Reinhardt to an extent is doing.
Yes.
By funding of many.
Like single-handedly.
Yeah, but arguably with Australian resources initially, but yes.
Yeah, well, that's okay. We won't get into that, but that's a good point. So it turns out Australia does pay people to win medals. I've got a table in US dollars.
So per medal.
Yeah, per medal.
So Jess Fox gets 3x or whatever.
Okay, exactly. And so let me start by saying this. This was the first Olympics Israel's ever won a gold medal.
Oh, really? Yep. What they winning for?
Windsurfing.
Oh, wow.
I just happened to come across it. I wasn't really following it, but I happened to come across it. So that athlete received $271,000 from the Israeli government.
Yeah.
And so they are the 4th highest payer per medal.
4th only.
They probably thought they could pay $271K. It's all USD because no one's ever won a gold medal, so they're probably pretty safe. Yeah. But they still pay $216 for silver and $135 for bronze. So it's a big drop to bronze.
How much was it?
271. Yep. 216.
Oh, so it's not much. Silver gets almost the same.
And 135.
Yeah. I think silver's over
to bronze, maybe. And so let me ask you this question first. It's hard to call this a country. Which place do you think is number one? Maybe
Monaco? Is that a place?
No, but that's actually
Luxembourg?
That's a country, and so is that.
Vatican? I don't know.
That's actually a country as well.
Is it?
Yeah, with a 0 population growth. Fertility rate 0. Yeah. There are people. Vatican's a country.
Yeah.
So Hong Kong is number one.
Okay.
So I didn't know how to. So they pay $768,000
$768
for a gold medal.
Jeez, that's pretty good. Imagine if you're Michael Phelps winning 7.
And then they do a simple system. They just do how I said it's 4-2-1. That's what they do with money. Half for silver and then half for bronze. Yep. Number 2, Singapore pretty similar.
And someone won Singaporean win week 1, I think.
I don't know, but if they do, they get $745,000 US dollars.
Incredible.
And, I don't know.
It sounds too high.
I'm telling you, this is
I'm not saying it's too high.
This is from the CBS.
I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm saying
CBS
it's too high.
data. Yeah. Okay. Yes, it's very high. And they do the same as Hong Kong, half. Number 3 is a big drop. Indonesia.
Wow.
$300K USD.
You think Indonesia had better things to do with their money?
I feel like that's a lot of money in Indonesia.
Given it's
like $300K USD in Indonesia. $300K USD in Indonesia is a lot more money.
We need to compare to GDP per capita.
In
GDP per capita
Singapore.
probably 10,000 in Indonesia. So it's way high.
And then it goes to Israel, and down the list there's some, like the country after Israel is Kazakhstan, and there's some interesting countries here. The Korean got $45,000 USD for winning gold.
Exempt military service worth a lot more than that.
What do you think Australia pays for a gold medal?
It's like 30 grand or something, isn't it?
Yeah, so $13K USD.
Oh, is that all?
That's Australia's pay.
So gold and Holden worth more.
Yeah.
I'd rather get the Holden.
So I think, if you weren't patriotic and you just did this on an incentives basis, if you thought you were a pretty good chance of winning gold, at the very least, you got to move to Singapore and represent them. Yeah, so I thought that was interesting. I don't think, you might superficially say this is an argument that financial incentives don't drive medals, but the truth is that I don't think this is necessarily that correlated, because it also depends on your population size and the focus on sport and et cetera. And I think that this 13K, my guess is it makes no difference whatsoever to the outcomes that Australian athletes are trying to achieve. Everyone wants to win gold medals.
What drives medals is investment in, and I'm not saying this is a good thing, but when AIS got created.
Oh, 100%.
And why they got created? Because we won 0 golds in 76 in Montreal. So that's why they did it. So, and you saw the UK before London. UK went from being a sporting also-ran to being an absolute powerhouse in not just London, in Rio as well. Because they invested so much in cycling and all those sports and athletics and all that stuff. And then you need the generational talent, the Mo Farahs, the Ian Thorpes, all that stuff on top of that.
Well, Catapult exists largely because the AIS was created.
Really?
Like, we're very tightly connected to the AIS.
In the AIS.
Yeah, basically. And essentially you could cynically say, this is not universally true, but a gold medal costs a certain amount of money in investment.
100% it does.
And so it's not perfectly correlated, but it's very rare to win gold medals if your country does not have a commitment to Olympic sports.
Well, you saw the communist bloc or Soviet bloc during the 60s, 70s, 80s. They were investing, like people were starving, they were investing in gold medals. That was the bread and circuses.
I think there may have been a bit of kind of nitro that was added to those athletes as well.
Speaking of Olympics, have you been listening? Do you listen to Malcolm Gladwell's podcast, Revisionist History?
I have listened to it in the past.
I think Series 1 was as good a podcast as I've ever listened to. So obviously we love our own podcast, but I reckon Series 1 Revisionist History is up there with the most brilliant content I've ever heard. And then it's had good, I think it's about Series 6 or 7 now, and he had his good episode and bad episodes since then, so it's still a great podcast I always listen to. But he's done one on the 1936 Olympics. I'm not sure how much you knew about Hitler's games, essentially.
I know quite a bit about it.
Yeah, it's just a fascinating, obviously you got the Jesse Owens stuff, and that was the last episode. But the leader with Avery Brundage and the other guy, that Charles Merrill, that moron. So like just the lead up to it is fascinating, and it's the way that Gladwell digs, and he's got a big team producer to dig in behind the stuff you remember. I think it's a must listen. Just the history of the anti-Semitism that underlay that. Obviously, this is before the Holocaust, but you could tell it, see it coming a mile away.
Well, it's on my list of podcasts, so I'll go grab that episode.
I think there's about 8-episode series, but they're short, sort of 30-minute episodes. But for listeners, after you finish listening to this one, obviously jump onto Malcolm's podcast, which is incredible.